Good evening and afternoon, everybody. How we doing? April 25th. A hard Monday today. I'm in another bad mood today, but gonna try and not show my true colors for once here. Maybe there's a little too much of me around here, says the guy with the podcast. Episode 5. First things first, we got a heavy NBA show today, a little bit of MMA recap. Got some predictions coming up this weekend. If you're an MMA fan or a fight fan, there has been no short. I feel like this time of year is a really good time for fights. You know, close to Christmas, New Year's time. A little bit of a sprint here, and then a big sprint around the 4th of July season. Best time for fights ever, I would say. Maybe it's just the weather that makes me happy. You could put me in 80 degrees and kick my ass, and I'd still give you a smile. First things first, off the top today, I'd like to give a very, very, very special shout out to Chaka Toast of MMA Twitter. Those of you that are MMA Twitter fans and participants and included in the community, first of all, welcome. I'm sure that's what most of this audience is generated from. Two, very important day today for my guy Toast. I don't even know his first name, but he's Toast to me forever, and he's very supportive and probably MMA's best father, I would say, next to he's still my boy. It's like that every day with this guy. Great dad. Wish he would have, I had a dad like that guy growing up. I wouldn't be podcasting in my basement with hemorrhoids right now. Tell you the truth. But Chaka Toast, 14 years sober, way to wear it on your sleeve. Probably the hardest thing to do as a human being in this world is to get sober, as it is very easy to take the easy way out and numb yourself and dumb yourself down to this existence that we call life that can be so unforgiving majority of the time. So for you to raw dog this life, rip the Jimmy off, and take one in the face, I appreciate you, and I mean that when I say you're one of the strongest human beings alive out there. Anybody sober for more than a year is a goddamn hero to me. So God bless you. Let's get right into the NBA. I'm gonna come straight out and talk about Mr. Ben Simmons here. Everybody's already covered it before me. I'm sure I'm one of the last ones to the take here. But let's take a look at the slate of games we got tonight. Starting off 7 o'clock, the Celtics and the Nets. Already coming in that Ben Simmons will not be playing. A lot of people on the mainstream, if I was to regurgitate their opinion, they're saying, okay, this is the Nets, saying sayonara, waving the white flag, saying there ain't no chance in hell that they're coming back. And there ain't no chance in hell that Ben Simmons is playing this season, which it could be a multitude of things. For me to start off and to say, I think with the climate today of image has always been there. Image has always been there in basketball. But the way that your image is just morphed and curated day to day, hour to hour now, from the three biggest social media sites, Instagram, Twitter, and Reddit ain't social media, but it drives the narrative, One guy clanks a basket and says, oof, a funny way. It's a fucking meme. It's got 14,000 upvotes in 7 minutes. 1 million people have seen it. We can streamline things right into our veins. So number one, component for me for Ben not being back there would be if he goes out there and stinks up the joint, his brand is ruined forever. He's a fucking laughingstock. That's number one for me. Do I think he could play and push it? Yes. Do I think that stars should take as much time as they want? That's not up to me. I'm not the one in charge of giving them millions and millions of dollars. The old white guy in me would say, hey, you make all that money, go out there and blow the knee out. But these guys don't have to. They can tell you to shut the fuck up. It's their bodies. It's their money. It's their dish soap they're selling on the commercials. So I don't got nothing to say. Except for everything on the Charlie Atherton show. So, do I blame the kid? No. Literally no. All these people coming out here and making fun of a 25-year-old millionaire who's tall, good-looking, has skin that looks like fucking marble. Am I gonna feel bad for the guy ever? No. Do I blame him for anything? No. God chose him. God loves him more. It's the way it is. So take as much time as you want, Ben. If they're gonna, the only people you're pissing off are the fans and the owners, and they don't sign your checks except what one of those groups of people does, and it looks like you got a lot of leeway. But my biggest, and I was thinking about this pre-show today, one of my biggest questions is who gets to decide the value of, the amount of bullshit that an organization can take by taking on a player. Where does the skill pay for the bullshit that he gives? Kyrie Irving is the best example in the league for the amount of bullshit that he can give. Antonio Brown Jr., people that can play, 75% of the games, sit out a couple plays, get contracts that are in the top 15% of the league and call their own shots the whole time. Is it a scouting department? Is it a GM? Is it a little bit of everybody? What's the ratio? What's the objective ratio of bullshit to talent to tolerance to timetable? You know what I mean? Everybody's got their limit. Everybody's got their breaking point. But stats are stats. And like I said, selling dish soap is selling dish soap. It's bought a lot of nice things in this world. And for you youngins out there, when I say selling dish soap, I mean commercials, advertisements. So that's something I was sitting on today. I wouldn't call myself the media. I'd say I'm new media, and new media doesn't have a whole lot of credentials. So if anybody knows, who do you think's calling the shots, whether it be, let's use both my examples of Antonio Brown and Ben Simmons. Who is calling those shots of saying, I don't know, but, he's better on our side than he is on their side. If we can put up with it a little bit. You're losing the locker room. I get that these guys are superior they're the 1% of the 1%. They're better than some of the best guys in the league. These are the only guys that get away with it. Otherwise, they get cut. But you got to know it's fucking up the locker room. You got to know that some kid coming into the league, like a Cade Cunningham type, is raising his eyebrow at these old heads, goofing off and calling their own shots. A smart kid would know that that's not going to last. And there's going to be resentment, and that a lot of people aren't good liars, and athletes really haven't had to lie their whole life. They've been able to tell the truth. And you ever go to a party, who lets their tempers flare and who lets their emotions flare? The biggest guys in the room, and that's these guys. So I guess you could probably allude to an example of locker room turmoil from any of these types of, figures, a Ben Simmons, a Kyrie, an Antonio Brown type. Who's doing the calculations, fat guy Jonah Hill style in Moneyball? You know what I'm saying? Just something I was thinking about today. Probably something I should know. I'm sure there's different answers for every organization, but I'd be curious to know. Tonight we got the final game of the Celtics and the Nets. I think we all know how that's going to go. If the Nets want to, extend it, I'm sure they could tonight. I'm sure they could, pull the goalie tonight and go all out. And Durant might be one of those guys that plays better with a purpose or a reason. Not that, getting swept in the playoffs isn't a reason to not play good, but maybe he needs a little bit of pressure. Different guys, different things. Some people need that butthole, to get that nookie. And then other guy, I'm fine with, I take what I can get around here. Okay? Not to make this adult rated, but different strokes for different folks is one of the truest lines ever spoken, and it's probably 100 years old at this point. Next game after that, Jazz and the Mavericks. Probably my second favorite series so far, just because of how topsy-turvy it is. I mean, I couldn't. If you're giving predictions for this series, you're a goddamn genius, and don't be working in the media. Take all your savings out and put some money on whoever you think is winning, because this is a true 50-50. The Jazz are are a disguised good team. They kind of remind me of, and I'm going to use some bad examples here. I don't know. They remind me of like how the Spurs used to be post-championship era. You know, they had not any of the personnel relation, but just how you think it's a good team and then they can't get it done. They can't be concrete. And I think some of that problem comes from is Mitchell was kind of in that Giannis era. Now, I could be wrong. You could fact check me, give or take plus or minus 2 or 3 years, which is a lot. But the people that were part of the Giannis draft class or that era they're grown men at this point. You know, they're at the 27 to 30 mark, you know, late 20s. You're a goddamn young man at that point. People want to say, oh, young man, you know, from 16 to 22. You're a kid until you're about 25, and let's be fucking honest with ourselves, okay? I didn't know nothing from nothing. So these guys that are inheriting the league, which they've done a beautiful job with it, the future is looking so bright. There's a star and a scorer on every team that would make me watch. You know, they don't even need gimmick teams anymore or gimmicks. These guys are just good enough to watch and tune in. Point being, Donovan Mitchell is around that class, part of that class. He isn't taking over that team well. You know, if we were watching Winning Time right now and the cameras were off and they went to the locker room, they'd be like, you know, what's the problem, man? What, you know, this is your team. Take over. Act like it, blah, blah, blah. I don't see, there's something that just ain't clicking with them. And I think there's a lot of false gods on that team. You know, Rudy Gobert, I get feminine energy from him. He's not a killer. He cried not winning Defensive Player of the Year. Everybody mocked him, and I blame him. Everybody's more sensitive than the other, and everybody's got a different story than the other. But you know, not all dogs. There's some cats in the mix. So Mitchell, he's going to have to get he reminds me, him and Jaylen Brown have a very similar style where they can just get a bucket, you know, and Mitchell isn't too bad behind the arc either. He sure as hell is a lot better than Jaylen Brown in this example, but so where's the beef here? I just think it's a lack of execution, too easy of an answer, but that's the difference between the stars of the stars. Mr. Mr. Perfect, Mr. Doncic, you know, has to be playing hurt right now. They could have, you know, snuck that game in. It was a tough loss. It was a game of misses last game. Could have snuck that one in, could have made it worth it, and, you know, worth it for him to play hurt, but I got a feeling that he's going to be back. You know, after all that shit I just talked about the Jazz, I got a feeling that this is all going to be a lost cause because there's a lack of execution, but they're a more complete team at this point. The Mavs, I'm not sure what I'm looking at every time I watch them. I see a lot of scraps doing their best, buying into a system based around a star that's working because that star is just so extravagant. He's top 3 in the league. He's got the range from wherever. The game revolves around him. He's a magnet. If he slows down, they slow down. If he speeds up, they speed up. Yeah, he is a game manager, and he's such a young man. So I'm not really sure, you know, what to make it, but that's the best part about this series. It's, in my opinion, the biggest 50-50 series out there. So, with the nightcap, we got the Raptors and the Sixers. PU, bro. Let's speed this up, get a quick exit here, and the Sixers can get to the locker room and, you know, make this, try and develop a little bit of a better product for the playoffs here because this is the ugliest 3-1 series I've ever seen. But like I said, a lot of people playing hurt. The NBA's got to do something about, you know, shortening the season if they want any of these guys to last. Tall guys get hurt. Long guys get hurt. It's what the league's made up of. The game of NBA is just brutal to your joints. And Mr. Embiid, he's got tall guy syndrome. They've already came out and announced that he's got torn ligaments in his thumb. He's going to have surgery right after the season. I'm sure he's dying in pain at night. You know what I mean? And he's just one of those non-durable big guys, and I don't blame him. God nerfs you. It's the make and model of the car. I can see that I don't ever count the Raptors out just because of how much I respect Nick Nurse's coaching. So we'll see. It's at home. I sense some heat coming from Harden. He really hasn't shown. He's just been automatic. He hasn't been dominant. He's been automatic, if that makes sense. He's been getting the buckets, but he hasn't been running away with the torch here. So. I got the Raptors extending the series, making it even longer and harder on Embiid and Harden here, unless if the Sixers do win tonight, it's going to be backed by Mr. James Harden himself, because something about the energy and the serendipity of the world, I feel is going to start coming down on Joel Embiid, where they're just going to start bumping and grinding him and making it harder and harder for him to participate. So 3 more good games tonight. I'm going to be sad after this week here when we don't, it feels like March Madness again. It feels like March Madness with the best players in the world. It's a great time of year. I think the play-in game, this is the second season of the play-in tournament, I believe. One of the best editions. It could very well be the next wild card. It might rival it. The football's got the fan base to back it up. But for those that, that appreciate the NBA, I think the wild card or the play-in tournament, whichever you want to call it, is one of the best editions in modern sports in the last probably 5 years. So great job there. We'll see if maybe they can shorten the season. It's killing these guys out here. Yesterday, like I said, this is going to be a heavy NBA show. We'll try and get through these pretty quick here. Atlanta, Miami was the game yesterday. I expected that out of Miami. Every series they ran away with it, and that's the domination that they were looking for. Trae Young, the NBA, on behalf of the NBA, and I'm not speaking for the fans. I'm speaking for the pocketbooks of the fat cats at the top. Thanks for all your content. It's a good thing Trae's got a big fat contract to go sit on, because he'd be pissing and moaning at how much he's given to these guys. Extra screen time, extra dish soap. He's been getting the ball. He's been keeping the games close. He plays a fast game. He's waving goodbye to the crowd, like I said. Diet Dr. Kelp, Reggie Miller. He's on his way there. So it was nice for a series to finally end. Now Miami can go rest and maybe, figure out some different angles there. But that after seeing a little bit of the behind the scenes and, some interviews, I see the least amount of bullshit and fugaziness amongst the team chemistry with this team. That looks like a team that actually gets along and actually can play together and, is buying in. The Suns are like that too. And I think you guys know what I'm talking about here, where you look at them and you see brothers, you see people that have had conversations that respect the totem pole of each other, the integrity of the game, their coach. Everybody is buying into their role, which is, one of the hardest things to do in the modern era of anything. When you have a camera on the front of your, the front of your phone and the back of your phone, everybody thinks they're the star of the show. And people have to be okay with playing a role, being on the sideline. And nobody in this modern era, regardless of civilian, athlete, superstar, nobody is comfortable taking a back seat in the modern era. So people that can do that, I think there's a way of streamlining success via not being the star. So the other, I said Atlanta Miami was the game. Probably the game yesterday was the Warriors and the Nuggets. At least the tightest game at this point. The Nuggets played awesome basketball, super competitive, and man, the Nuggets got one of the best paces in the NBA. A high pace is a disguise for bad defense, and a lot of clanking. You know what I mean? You can keep that pace up and get the points up, but it's like running the spread in 2010 in college football. You know, you're running the spread because you're trying to make up space. You're trying to get speed and space and see what you can get. Nickel and dime. So, wouldn't surprise me if, I saw a couple groans between the Warriors this game. You know, when they're down, they're not necessarily down, but they get down on each other. There's a lot of brats in that locker room. Every locker room's got brats, but what people don't like to discuss, Steph's Mr. Mickey Mouse, got the face of the league. Klay Thompson's got a bulldog. They're both fucking cute, okay? They make three-pointers. They ruin people say they ruin the game. I would never say such a thing, but they got to have in the back of their brain that they at one point were cultural icons with the Splash Brothers. There is some fucking brathood in it, and I see it. They are not nice to each other on the court. They are not nice to the new guys, and they are very okay with bitching and moaning to each other. Draymond, he's from Saginaw. I'm from Michigan. Shout out Oakland County. Anybody from Michigan has the real eye and the real perspective on Saginaw. It's not a good environment. It rivals some of the worst places in planet Earth. You're telling me a guy from Saginaw's got an attitude problem? Get some fucking news here. That's why you won't hear anything from me about Draymond. It is what it is, a product of the environment. Maybe you could have put that guy in Lake Orion, Michigan, and he'd still have a mouth on him. I wouldn't blame him. But that's not to say there's that level of bratness, and then there's what. Look, come on! What you doing? You don't give me the ball here. Okay, you guys, someone's gonna miss, and you guys are gonna be on the fucking end of the court again. Okay. Quit being mean to each other. Get in your spot and set your fucking screens for each other. You only got to set a screen for 2.5 seconds, and then you can pop out, and somebody will be passing you the ball. And you can take it, and you can make your shot, and you can count your bricks all the way up the Hollywood Hills. A little too much of that. If they weren't bitching, they'd be blowing the Nuggets out. And Mr. Jokic is never down. He's in any game. You could put fucking 4 guys from the Y on that team, and he'd take them there. He's that special. And he's another Luka type where the game just revolves around him, and people buy into the game revolving around him. So, do I think the Warriors will eventually get it done? Yes. Did we think the Jordan Poole show was going to just keep burning and take them to the next stage of the playoffs, and that was a story in the making? Yes. Is it starting to happen or is it starting to appear that may not happen, and Jordan Poole may not, just had a couple hot games and he's not ready to be the star of the stars? That's very plausible too. I cannot wait for the next game of that. I'm saying I can't wait for every single series, basically, and that, for good reason. How much did you guys like that clip of Jokic getting taken out of the game so they could get some speed on Otto, and then Jokic calling the play and coaching from the sidelines? I saw a joke on Twitter. They said that they pulled Jokic out so he could coach that play. Great joke and very fitting. What do you think? Kerr isn't going to make his adjustments. That guy's built for the playoffs. He's no dummy. He's part of that no dummy category, that Nick Nurse, that Kerr, Brad Stevens, just they ain't no dummies. And I already touched on Ben Simmons. I front-loaded Ben Simmons today, You want to talk about selling dish soap, they talk about him. All right, we're about 3/4 of the way here today. We'll probably talk about the MMA and then, skedaddle out of here. I'm already in a little bit better of a mood, but we'll see how that lasts. This weekend, like I said, no shortage of fights. We had 2 back-to-back nights of Bellator. It must have been a great weekend in Honolulu, with the commentators. I can't think of that guy that Big John McCarthy does his show with. But anytime I see Bellator, I just think, man, him and John McCarthy have just got to have a blast on the weekends. I'm sure they get sick of each other, but I'm sure, the MMA guys, they know how to have a good time. They really do. There's a certain, how baseball players are kind of like, you're like, that's a fucking baseball player. There's an MMA personality that somebody needs to do, a good take on. And, Chael Sonnen, all these guys, they have that same kind of, like, it's very, old school Chuck Norris-y, like, you can try that, but I'm going to do this type thing. And I think that's a fighter's mentality. There's variations of that in basketball and football, but I think in its purest form of, you can try that, but I'm going to give you this, it's probably an ex-MMA fighter. So those guys look like they're having a great time. I don't think we spent all last week shitting on Bellator. They don't have as bad as a staff as we think. They got their good mix of pretty ladies in there. They got their good mix of ex-fighters. They don't do a bad job. And when they stack up like this, I absolutely love it. I love when they just go buck wild, dump the payload. And that's one of the only sports, you can't do that in football. You can't say, okay, fuck it. I don't want the Patriots to play the Vikings this week. I want them to play the Seahawks so we can watch this. You can't do that. But in MMA, you can. There's great planning and multiple great events. All year. It's one of the only sports where you can curate to the audience, weekend by weekend, month by month, and plan in advance. So I get that there's a little bit of that in the NBA, with the Christmas games, with the Saturdays and Sundays and blah blah blah. But in its purest form, you can see it in any fight promotion. Fights were pretty stinky. There was actually a lot more talk about, the fake nut shot, I think it was just the nut shot, correct? And I don't know if I covered that in this episode, or not this episode, but last episode, but I heard more about the clean leg kick, inside leg kick that landed, that was taken as a nut shot, and the guy, took the liberty upon himself to steal that W, and not continue on. It's gonna happen. I'm recalling that I went over this now, and I'll carry it on over to this one. It's like stealing it's like, running into the birthday party, having your cake and eating it too. You can steal the birthday cake, take it out the door and eat it in your car, but don't expect to be invited back to the party, okay? Jessica Andrade did exactly what I said she was going to do 2 episodes ago. Go ahead and timestamp it. That's the first Charlie prediction of the podcast era. I'll erase all my old wins from my 20 years of radio, okay? We'll start over, and I bet I'll still lap a couple of you fools. But I didn't think that she would do it standing up. And I think everybody else was surprised about that. Apparently to the seasoned people and the people that actually throw hands in this world, they were saying, oh, that's pretty rare. They haven't seen something like that before, or at least seen it in a while. So just goes to show the strength of Jessica Andrade. Like I said, it was nothing that she had seen before. I would have picked her to win that 9 times out of 10. Maybe even 9.5 out of 10. Not very many memorable fights. I was actually playing beer hockey while all this was going on and peeking more at the NBA. I might be a fake fight fan. I'm doing a mainly MMA podcast, and I might be a fucking fight fan. It's embarrassing at this point. Macy Barber got pigged out on this weekend. She had a great win, and all that everybody could talk about was how jiggly she was. Go figure. MMA Twitter, keep doing what you're doing. Why I have faith in her, she's got good ability, she's got a good mold, she's nothing crazy by any, she's not an athlete by any means, a super athlete. She doesn't have one of those builds that you would, bet really back with your money on, and her build really wouldn't win her a lot of fights, but she's got the team, she's got teammates and coaches that are highly skilled. She's clearly highly intelligent and trainable. And she's young enough that they can mold her, and she can still be in this above average, not necessarily elite, but you're going to see her matched up with a lot of important people in her MMA career. Do I think she could be a champion? I'm not sure. Do I think that a lot of people are behind her, and with a good team, you can make somebody like her good? Absolutely. So Macy Barber, she got the W. That's another one I was like, okay, good for the brand, good for the UFC. So that's about it on the weekend. Like you won't even remember that fight card by August or July. We got PFL coming up again this week. I don't know if PFL was waiting for the fucking weather to turn to start, cranking out episodes, but I was so happy to look forward to the week and see not you're gonna say, Charlie, you're excited for PFL? You're gonna plan your schedule around a PFL card? Well, when they got guys like after all that setup, and I'm gonna mispronounce it, after they got guys like Bruno Capoloza, I love watching this guy fight. I've accidentally watched this guy fight twice, and it was such a treat. I love not many comparisons to him, maybe just the great posture, the great symmetrical weight distribution where it's heavy muscle, but it's flexible and light and light striking, light techniques. He reminds me of who was Francis Ngannou's striking partner there. Man, oh man, I'm terrible with my names. If I'm gonna fix one thing by the next couple episodes, I'm gonna start remembering my fucking names around here. Is the other French guy, Mr. Muay Thai guy. But if you guys aren't familiar with Mr. Bruno Capoloza, he is awesome to watch. His Muay Thai is exceptional. I love when a guy that big can just throw hands and legs. Fun fact, lost to Yuri Prozaka back in the day, everybody's favorite forest creature. That was one of his first fights. So, he's been up there with the best, very high level talent. I'm sure he would starch majority of opponents. He's way too fucking strong for his own good. I can't wait to watch him this week. I think PFL does weight class nights. I'm sure he's going to be either the last fight or the second to last fight. I'm pretty sure he's the last fight, but I will be watching him this week. We'll touch on that a little bit more, but Try and look up Bruno Capoloza, by the end of this week. If you're curious about a good fighter to watch, I love watching that guy. Looking forward to this week. We'll do our official predictions and all that a little bit later, but coming up this weekend, we got Rob Font, Marlon Vera at 135. It's always interesting when the light guys highlight the top of the card, but I think that's, that's pretty high talent. I don't know. You can put him at number, as a co-main, but what I'm a little bit disgusted with this time, and not disgusted, but Andre, you're going to insult me with Andre Arlovski versus a, not untalented Jake Collier, but you think I get Arlovski's, been around and paid his dues, and, I'm sure he's shook in Dana's hand, over a couple of games of pool multiple times. I get it. He's a Cerrone type. He's a gatekeeper. They're gonna keep lobbing him up, but don't insult me. You think I'm gonna fucking grab my girlfriend and make her sit on the couch with me for Andre Arlovski and Jake Collier as the co-main event? Get the fuck out of here. Quit insulting me like that. Rob Font, Marlon Vera. That's gonna be a great fight. Lots of strikes. Rob Font with the minus 136 early Vegas favorite. Marlon Vera plus 125. That's the respect for his career and for his game. I think he'd be crazy not to say Rob Font, just because no shortage of confidence, and you can't teach that level of accuracy that Rob Font has. With the volume and the accuracy, I can see a lot of strikes hitting and rounds just going his way simply because of the strike count. Rest of the card looking a little rough McGuff. They have been lately. And, if they're saving to blow their load on May 7th, I've been seeing a lot of people post the May 7th card. It ain't looking that great either. So they can throw a couple more guys on here. You need 3. They're trying to do these, two for, these two, I'll at least watch these 2. People are getting smart, Dana, and there's too much shit on during this time of year. They're not going to watch it. He could get away with that during college football season because the West Coast was kind of down on, on talent and ranked teams. And primetime football this year. But during this time of year, when you got basically every sport still playing except for football, he's going to run into a lot of issues, especially with there's a lot of bros out there that watch the baseball, that watch, the basketball. So we still got Tristan Conley, Darren Elkins, The Damage, more seasoned people. Gerald forever, plagued by Kamzat's right hand. I think it was the offhand. The only reason I know that is because Kamzat bragged about it so much. But you got Gerald, Mearshart, oh man, fighting 185. Always a good weight class to watch fight against Kristav's Jotko. You can tell him read it right off the fucking paper here. Jared Gordon, always on, never at the top of these cards. Okay talent. I think he's a little bit disrespected here with the plus 129 in a very, very, very tough weight division at 155. Always the bridesmaid, never the bride. Good to see him there. And then, just like Charles Jourdain last week, they got Mr. Touchy-Feely, one of the best nicknames in NBA or in the MMA, fighting this weekend. I love what he can bounce all over the place. Probably the main guy I want to see next to the main card if I'm awake for that time. But nothing else, that's going to make me set my alarm or make me tell the ladies to shut the fuck up. I believe, I'm barely even reporting on it, because I don't believe it, and I keep getting goof-ass information, but Alexander Romanov and Chase Sherman should be fighting. Romanov is going to absolutely dismantle Chase. If Chase makes it a fight, it'll be a W on its own, but, Alexander might be stupid enough to wrestle with them. And Chase is a big body. Maybe he can hold his own with some natural strength, but Alexander Romanov is the Thing and the Hulk put together. That is a strong man. So, I think we're gonna call it here. Kind of a slower, it's Monday. Not a whole lot to talk about. 3 more good games tonight. We'll cover those games tomorrow. Maybe I'll have something different for you. We're going to be transitioning to a video format here pretty soon. I keep saying it, but I want to get a little bit smoother, want to get a little bit better. All that experience in radio, and it hasn't done a goddamn thing with me start my own show. So I appreciate all your love. Chocolate Toast, congratulations on the 14-year sobriety. You're the strongest guy today. I appreciate everybody listening. MMA Twitter, thanks for the favorites when we're dismantling these fools and the mentions on the weekends. I appreciate you. We're going to get better. It's going to keep on chucking. So I will see you tomorrow for the next episode.